Letters from a Self-Made Merchant to His Son, written by George Horace Lorimer. Originally serialized in the Saturday Evening Post in 1901, these fictional letters tell the story of John Graham, a self-made meatpacking businessman in Chicago during the Gilded Age, writing to his son, Pierpont, also known facetiously as Piggy, who's a bit of a lazy college kid going to Harvard. Old Man Graham is full of wit and wisdom, practical advice, and a good kick in the ass as he talks to his son and prepares him to enter the family pork packing business. Uncle Vinny loved these letters, so pour yourself a scotch or a Shirley Temple and come settle in and get cozy. Are you cozy? Are you sitting comfortably? Then, Uncle Vinny will begin. Here's a peek from Old Man Graham's letters to Pierpont. Dear Pierpont, what we're really sending you to Harvard for is to get a little of the education that's so good and plenty there. When it's passed around, you don't want to be bashful, but reach right out and take a big helping every time, where I want you to get your share. You'll find that education's about the only thing lying around loose in this world, and that it's about the only thing a fellow can have as much of as he's willing to haul away. Everything else is screwed down tight and the screwdriver lost. Some men learn the value of money by not having any and starting out to pry a few dollars loose from the odd millions that are lying around. And some learn it by having 50,000 or so left to them and starting out to spend it as if it were 50,000 a year. Some men learn the value of truth by having to do business with liars, and some by going to Sunday school. Some men learn the cussedness of whiskey by having a drunken father, and some by having a good mother. Some men get an education from other men in newspapers and public libraries, and some get it from professors and parchments. It doesn't make any special difference how you get a half Nelson on the right thing, just so you get it and freeze onto it. The first thing that any education ought to give a man is character, and the second thing is education. That is where I'm a little skittish about this college business. I'm not starting in to preach to you because I know a young fellow with the right sort of stuff in him preaches to himself harder than anyone else can, and that he's mighty often switched off the right path by having it pointed out to him in the wrong way. There are two parts of a college education: the part that you get in the schoolroom from the professors, and the part that you get outside of it from the boys. That's the really important part. For the first can only make you a scholar, while the second can make you a man. Education's a good deal like eating. A fellow can't always tell which particular thing did him good, but he can usually tell which one did him harm. Does a college education pay? You bet it pays. Anything that trains a boy to think and to think quick pays. Anything that teaches a boy to get the answer before the other fella gets through biting the pencil pays. College doesn't make fools, it develops them. It doesn't make bright men, it develops them. A fool will turn out a fool, whether he goes to college or not, though he'll probably turn out a different sort of a fool. And a good strong boy will turn out a bright strong man, whether he's one smooth in the grab-what-you-want-neat stand-in with one eye skinned for the dog school of the streets and stores, or polished up and slicked down and to give your order to the waiter and get a 16-course dinner school of the professors. But while the lack of a college education can't keep number one down, having it boosts number two up. Of course, some men are like pigs. The more you educate them, the more amusing little cusses they become, and the funnier capers they cut when they show off their tricks. Naturally, the place to send a boy of that breed is to the circus, not to college. It isn't so much knowing a whole lot as knowing a little and how to use it that counts. Your affectionate father, John Graham. Dear Pierpont, I have noticed for the last 2 years that your accounts have been growing heavier every month, but I haven't seen any signs of your taking honors to justify the increased operating expenses. And that is bad business. A good deal like feeding his weight in corn to a scalawag steer that won't fat up. The sooner you adjust your spending to what your earning capacity will be, the easier they will find it to live together. The only sure way that a man can get rich quick is to have it given to him or to inherit it. You are not going to get rich that way. At least, not until after you have proved your ability to hold a pretty important position with the firm. And of course, there is just one place from which a man can start for that position with Graham and Company. It doesn't make any difference whether he is the son of the old man or of the cellar boss. That place is the bottom. And the bottom in the office end of this business is a seat at the mailing desk with $8 every Saturday night. I can't hand out any ready-made success to you. It would do you no good, and it would do the house harm. There is plenty of room at the top here, but there is no elevator in the building. Starting, as you do with a good education, you should be able to climb quicker than the fellow who hasn't got it. But there's going to be a time when you begin at the factory when you won't be able to lick stamps so fast as the other boys at the desk. Yet the man who hasn't licked stamps isn't fit to write letters. Naturally, that is the time when knowing whether the pie comes before the ice cream and how to run an automobile isn't going to be of any real use to you. I simply mention these things because I'm afraid your ideas as to the basis on which you are coming with the house has swelled up a little in the East. I can give you a start, but after that you will have to dynamite your way to the front by yourself. You know how I began. I was started off with a kick, but that proved a kick up, and in the end, everyone since has lifted me a little bit higher. I got $2 a week and slept under the counter, and you can bet I knew just how many pennies there were in each of those dollars and how hard the floor was. That is what you have got to learn. The bills ain't all in the butcher business. I've got some of them right now in my office, but they will never climb over the railing that separates the clerks from the executives. Yet if they would put in half the time thinking for the house that they give up to hatching out reasons why they ought to be allowed to overdraw their salary accounts, I couldn't keep them out of our private offices with a pull axe, and I wouldn't want to. But they could double their salaries and my profits in a year. But I always lay it down as a safe proposition that the fellow who has to break open the baby's bank toward the last of the week for car fare isn't going to be any Russell Sage when it comes to trading with the old man's money. He'd punch my bank account as full of holes as a carload of wild Texans would a fool stockman that they'd got in a corner. Now I know you'll say that I don't understand how it is that you've got to do as the other fellows do, and that things have changed since I was a boy. There's nothing in it. Adam invented all the different ways in which a young man can make a fool of himself, and the college yell at the end of them is just a frill that doesn't change essentials. The boy who does anything just because the other fellas do it is apt to scratch a poor man's back all his life. He's the chap that's buying wheat at 97 cents the day before the market breaks. They call him the country in the market reports, but the city's full of him. It's the fellow who has the spunk to think and act for himself, and sells short when prices hit the high C and the house is standing on its hind legs yelling for more, that sits in the directors' meetings when he gets on toward 40. There are times when it's safest to be lonesome. Use a little common sense, caution, and conscience. You can start the store with those three commodities when you get enough of them, but you've got to begin getting them young. They ain't catching after you toughen up a bit. You needn't write me if you feel yourself getting them. The symptoms will show in your expense account. Goodbye. Life's too short to write letters, and New York's calling me on the wire. Affectionate father, John Graham.